Salut tout le monde, c'est Richard Nutzel Fantasy, bringing you guys a brand new 2021 album review. And as you can see below the title, today we're going to be talking about the new album from the band Gojira entitled Fortitude, which was released today under Roadrunner Records. Now, you might be familiar with Gojira if you're a fan of progressive metal or death metal. A lot of people say they're kind of like a progressive technical death metal band hailing all the way from France, and these guys have been around since 2001. And for me, Gojira are one of my favorite bands. I've been listening to them for quite a few years, and this is their first album in nearly 5 years since Magma, which came out in 2016, and I thought that was a pretty good album. So after 5 years, we finally have a new Gojira album, the band's seventh album in full. Does it kind of live up or exceed what Magma has? In my honest opinion, I think it definitely has. Gojira definitely has evolved with their sound, even going back to their debut album, which hard to believe is now 20 years old now. I covered that, Terra Incognita. With every album that Gojira has done, they definitely have taken a different approach or sort of like evolved in their sound. There's not like a usual formula that they stick with. Well, they do have some sort of similar styles that they have elements of like progressive metal or even some death metal or even a little bit of like sludge metal at times, but with every album they've always taken a different approach or definitely has evolved in their sound. And I think they did a little bit with Magma, and I feel like they really kind of honed it in with Fortitude. So the production on this album is pretty great. Like Gojira has really great production. I mean, I know it was a little bit iffy a little bit on Terra Incognita, but over time it's gotten better. And let's just talk about like the vocals. I mean, Joe Duplantier's vocals, I feel like he has really evolved as a vocalist. Even going back from Terra Incognita to Fortitude, he's definitely evolved. Even with Magma, he does like still has like some really insane death growls, and he does kind of like, it's hard to describe it, kind of like shouty, clean vocals where he does scream it, but it almost kind of sounds like it's clean singing. He just blends the two together, which I think is amazing. Like never heard any vocalist do that. And he actually does some songs where he actually does sing. He actually sang on Magma, but I feel like he really just shines it. I really feel like he's improved a lot as a vocalist over the years. The guitar work on this album is really tight. Joe Duplantier and Christian Andreou's guitar playing is just tight. They have like just really sick riffing, and just the chugging is really great. Bass wise, Jean-Michel Pichu's bass really is audible in the mix. You could definitely hear it right there. And just drumming wise, Mario Duplantier, in my opinion, one of the best metal drummers that are still going on right now, and it's just insane what he can do. I think he could pretty much compete with like freaking Thomas Hake of Meshuggah, but yeah, that's besides the point. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Born for One Thing. Now, this song is just a very headbanging song and just makes you just want to pump your fist when you first hear it. And it's an great introduction, if there ever was one. And it has some really great technical drumming of Mario and the best bass playing from Jean-Michel Labadie. And I just love how Joe and Christian has some really great riffs over it. And it's a really catchy song with a very great chorus of like, we were born for one thing, tame the greatest fear of all, we were born for one thing. Really great lyrics. And I think it's a great way to start off this album. Anyway, moving on to Amazonia. Yeah, now this song is obviously about like the destruction of the Amazon rainforest, and I feel like the band is known for their sort of like environmental consciousness, and I feel like this is just a very angrier song, but also has a little bit of like South American rhythms and very indigenous instruments, really kind of like fitting the tone and mood for the song. And I just think it's a really great song. I don't know, I just feel like it's really a sign of the band, even on their seventh album, they're just trying new things and taking a different approach. Anyway, moving on to the next song, which is Another World, which this is, I believe, the first single was released from this album back in September of last year, and this song is just fucking flawless. And I remember hearing it when it first came out, and I just fell in love with it. And the main riff just captures so much emotion as well as the groove. And then the riff here is just very melancholy yet saddening and empowering. And this is one of the best choices that Gojira could make, especially with the time that we're in right now. Now, I feel like especially if they should continue with the style on Magma or just go back to their roots with some like brutal and yet progressive music, and the characteristics just makes this band just so unique in the early 2000s, and they chose the latter, and I feel like they really pull it off well, and I think it's a great song, one of my favorites from the album. Okay. Next song on the album is called Hold On, and it begins with sort of like a cappella vocals for the first time in the first two verses, and then going into like some really sick polyrhythmic riffs and some drums, and it's sort of like keeping the themes of sort of like taking action. It's a very uplifting statement, I feel like, with the song, to just hold on and to fight back for those who are struggling with stress, depression, addiction. It just makes you feel like you're all alone in darkness. Next up is Newfound, and this song, it launches sort of with a very kind of bounce and just some insane great chugging riffs that just pulse with sort of like some really cool key changes, and then has a really sick chorus with gang vocals, and I feel like this could really go well with the live show whenever they come back. Next up is the title track of the album, Fortitude, which is kind of like a slow instrumental piece, and I feel like this is the main instrument, and I feel like it's a perfect song to just lead into the next song, which is the chant, which is easily the most melodic and largely clean singing song of the whole band's entire catalog. It's sort of like is similar to Hold On, but done in kind of like a more kind of earthy way, if I can describe it. I heard the band describes it as like a healing ritual with sort of like the 2-word choruses of Get Strong, while the song just gets progressively heavier, it settles into more of a kind of like a hard rock groove rather than sort of like just the typical heaviness that Gojira is known for. Sphinx, which kind of like brings back that more kind of like familiar area with sort of like lounging yet bombastic vocals. It's just insane song. Into the Storm, which has like some really sick like double kick from Mario's, and then a really great catchy chorus. It almost kind of sounds very anthemic too, making it almost kind of like another highlight for this album. The Trails, which this song just opens up with some insane intro, and then unfolds into sort of like a different sounding than Gojira, and there's some clean vocals that dominate with some strong melodic harmonies, which will kind of like infuriate sort of like the old school fans of Gojira, and it works within the context of the atmosphere for this album. And then we end everything with the song Grind. Now, this is pretty much what everyone would want in a Gojira song. Heavy pounding, highly technical vocals, which delivers a powerful message. And this song is saying sort of like the opposite of what the lyrics say. Go, surrender to the grind, obey, surrender to the grind. And Gojira have no intention of surrendering anything at all, and I think it's a really strong message and a strong way to end this album. Now, overall, Fortitude by Gojira is a great album, and they definitely stepped it up. And they definitely I feel like it's kind of like almost kind of like a new beginning for Gojira in a way, another evolution in their sound. So I have to give this album a score. I'm going to give Fortitude by Gojira a 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the new Gojira album, guys. Let me know what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal. Missy.